The Delicious Last Course is a fun play on and use of the letters for DLC, which stands for downloadable content. DLC is typically released for a game after its initial launch, although some games have paid DLC when it first releases. Either way, a lot of the time, although the DLC is released after the launch of the game, it takes place at around the same time or at least before reaching the end stage of said game. For example, Dark Souls is known for its DLC, with most of the series' post-launch content taking place before you fight the final main boss. For the Cuphead DLC, I've seen a lot of people just claim it's obviously a sequel to the main events of the first game, and then cite evidence that doesn't really hold up. So in this video, I'm going to start with the most obvious factors that contribute to this answer, and then work my way down to the obscure references and moments that make me question just where in the timeline the DLC really takes place. Let's start by talking about the obvious one here, and that's the name of this content pack, The Delicious Last Course. Obviously, first and foremost, it's a play on the letters DLC, but it's also a pretty telling name. The course refers to the Wonder Tart, I believe, but it also might be referencing that this is the last course of the entire Cuphead meal, so to speak. We might not get any more Cuphead game, or at least nothing more for this first installment. The main menu theme changes once you download the DLC, and the song is called The Delicious Last Course. The lyrics reference Last Course as all of the scones and tarts and pies that the trio can eat their fill of in this next adventure. And at the end hints at things not going well, but nothing references a timeline of any sort, so we can't go off of this. One of the biggest arguments I see people make is the Cat Paperboy character. I got way too many comments on this on my last video. Listen, if you go to the DLC with a completed main game save file like most people did, you will notice that he says, "You're them cups that took out the devil, ain't ya? If you sent that in packing, you got suitcases to spare. Take a little money for doing the world a favor." And gives you 3 coins. He mentions the devil and the imp and how you beat him. So here's the gimmick with this character. He keeps track of all of your main game progress and gives you different dialogue depending on when you get to the island. He will also just give you the 3 coins if you haven't beaten the devil, out of pity. So you can't just use his final lines of dialogue as proof that it takes place after the main game, when he will give you the 3 coins at any point and has different dialogue depending on how many bosses you have beaten. He's a newspaper boy, he's shouting the headlines. From a purely gameplay standpoint, it makes sense that they will let you get to the DLC island from anywhere in the game. There is a boat on all 3 base Inkwell islands, and you can go there as early as beating 1 running gun and then the mausoleum. Obviously, this is just the devs giving new players a way to access Ms Chalice quickly, since she does make the game less difficult. The boatman NPC that ferries you to the island is a compass, not a clock, so for all of you theorizing it's time travel, there isn't really a tie to this NPC. I have also seen a lot of comments saying that there's a ticket for the DLC that says it's 1932, and if you look at the main game menu, you see 1930. I have no idea where you're supposed to see this 1932. I zoomed in all over this DLC menu option. You can't flip it open, so maybe somebody has removed the filter and looked at it, but if they have, there is no evidence anywhere, and I have no idea how to go about doing that. So I can't really say for certainty if that's even the truth. I also checked all of the main game menus, and anywhere there's a date, it just says 1930. If that rumor is true though, the claim that the DLC is a sequel will be a lot stronger. However, we then have to consider that if it happens 2 years later, but the newspaper boy keeps track of the main island progress, yeah, this is one of those things where I don't think MDHR actually fully explains it. Cuphead does have a lot of cool backstory, but most of it is would that be cool, and wow, that's a nice idea to think about, rather than set in stone lore, this is what happened. There's a lot more questions than answers. People also bring up the fact that in the DLC you have your weapons, and Ms Chalice recognizes you. Obviously this has to happen since you must start the main game and get through a mausoleum to start the DLC quest. So we can rule out that it's a prequel, right? Ms Chalice recognizes you on the shores of the island, so traveling back into the past is out of the question. Except, Ms Chalice is existing in the astral plane when the DLC starts. And if you haven't seen my video on the astral plane lore, it's very confusing, so go check that out. Part 2 of that will be coming out really soon. I do think prequel/time travel is unlikely though, as time travel hasn't really been hinted at anywhere in the game. When you beat the DLC though, here's where things get interesting.
Well, Cuphead and his pal Mugman, their new friend Chalice too. By chance they stopped into a bake shop. Mischief was on the menu. Now the debts are paid, the pastries are baked. There is one thing left to say. The delicious last course. Delicious last course. Delicious last course.
In the final credits, we get the song The Key Ingredients, and it starts off with a few lyrics sung by our pals, the Barbershop Quartet. from Inkwell Isle 2. The important one to note is now the debts are paid, the pastries are baked. Most of the main game's story is spent going around and collecting the souls from those in debt to the devil. Hearing now the debts are paid could imply that by the time the credits roll in the DLC, the base game is completed. However, I think this is more referring to Chef Saltbaker's debts that he has to do community service for. He did, after all, send you to beat up and steal ingredients from the Inkwell Isle 4 residents. Mostly I think this because the second part, the pastries are baked, is probably referring to the end shot of Saltbaker handing out goodies to everyone in the happy ever after ending. This one I am a little shaky on though, so if you have thoughts on it, comment below. I guess I should also bring up the secret boss, with many people saying that having the devil's skeleton in the background means he is dead, means the base game is done. But again, we don't kill the devil in the base game, he is alive and well. The whole secret boss is probably just a nightmare of Cuphead's, since beating it gets you the achievement, A Horrible Night to Have a Curse, which is of course an OG Castlevania reference, but the description for that achievement reads, Survive the Nightmare. And yeah, Cuphead and Mugman are really scared of the devil, as we can see multiple times in the game, so no wonder they are having nightmares about it. But if it is a nightmare about the devil, the only time they see the skeleton is during the final boss battle with the devil himself. But then again, skeletons are just scary. I don't know. Also should bring up the urgency of the base game. The devil gives you until midnight to collect all of the souls. So maybe going to the DLC on a whole different adventure wouldn't really make sense. But this is another one of those weird situations games fall into, like how in Fallout 4 you are searching for your missing kid, but in the meantime might as well do 2 DLCs, build 10 settlements, and help Preston with another raider problem or 2.
Make sure to offer help to anyone that needs it. That can only help our cause. I've got something for you to do right now, actually.
Then, if you look at the name Inkwell Isle 4, it's the 4th island in a sequence, but Inkwell Hell isn't numbered. So maybe canonically the DLC takes place before Inkwell Hell, but after Inkwell Isle 3. At least to me the DLC bosses didn't seem to be all that much harder on standard difficulty compared to Inkwell Isle 3. I would even go as far as to say that Saltbaker is easier than the devil, but expert mode changes all of that. So why does this matter so much? Why do I care if it's a sequel or a prequel or before or after? I don't really know. I guess if it took place after the main game, that would point to it being a finale of the Cuphead game series. While I think overall the Deal with the Devil ending has more weight, the Delicious Last Course would be a satisfying enough ending, I suppose. It could be the end of Cuphead entirely, but we have the Netflix show Part 2 releasing in August, which I of course will be covering in depth, and I don't know, it seems with all the marketing, merch, franchising and such, it would just be weird for the DLC to be the end of the game and for there to be no Cuphead 2. But that's for another video. Thanks for watching, and if you like challenging boss-filled indie games and interested in sometimes dark lore, then you should subscribe because that's what I am all about. Also, I do random meme videos. Anyways, talk to me in the comments about your Cuphead theories and whether or not you think it's a sequel. Also, about Silksong, I think the release